You know, it's easy to think of an information security management system, an ISMS, as just a bunch of dusty policies on a shelf. But if that's what you think, then this explainer is definitely for you. Today, we're getting our hands dirty and firing up the real engine of the ISMS, Clause 8. This is where all that high-level strategy meets the messy, day-to-day reality of operations. It's where your security plans are really put to the test.
All right, here's our game plan for today. We're going to start with a big picture look at Clause 8. Then we'll dive deep into its three core components, the planning and control, that constant cycle of risk assessment, and then the really crucial part, risk treatment. By the time we're done, you'll see exactly how these pieces lock together to create a powerful loop that drives your entire security program.
So this is it. This is where the rubber really meets the road. All those big strategic talks, all those risk appetite statements and objectives you set back in Clause 6, well, Clause 8 is where they actually spring to life. Think of it as the gear and pulley system that takes those lofty goals and turns them into concrete, repeatable, and most importantly, auditable actions that define what your security posture actually is. Now, take a second and really look at this definition. Operation isn't just some corporate buzzword. It's the critical bridge that connects we should to we do. So for instance, a plan from Clause 6 might be something like, all privileged access must be reviewed quarterly. Clause 8, that's the actual process doc, the automated reminders, the logged review sessions, and the final sign-offs that make sure that review happens every single time. Okay, let's dig into Section 8.1. If Clause 8 as a whole is the engine, then this part is all about laying down the tracks and setting up the signals. It's about establishing those fundamental rules and controls that guide your day-to-day ISMS operations, making sure everything runs smoothly and predictably, not just chaotically. I just love how simple and powerful this is. It really boils operational control down to this elegant two-step loop. First, you define what good looks like. What are the rules for this process? That's your criteria. For example, all new cloud services have to go through a security review before deployment. Then, step 2, you build the guardrails, the controls, like a mandatory step in your deployment pipeline that literally stops the release until that review is approved. You know, in the world we live in, change is the only thing you can count on. This quote really gets to the heart of a critical point. Your security controls can't be rigid. They have to be agile. They need to handle the changes you plan for, like a big software upgrade, but also the ones you don't, like a sudden server misconfiguration. The goal is always to maintain control, no matter what surprises get thrown your way.
This really drives home that your security responsibilities don't just stop at your own front door. Look at that last bullet point. It's absolutely critical. You are on the hook for the security of your suppliers, your cloud providers, pretty much any third-party service you rely on. It's a whole supply chain, and you have to make sure every single link is strong, maybe through things like contractual security requirements or right to audit clauses.
And here it is, the first strand of what I call the golden thread of Clause 8, documentation. And look, this isn't just about paperwork, it's about proof. It's the hard evidence, the change logs, the access reviews, the config baselines that gives everyone, from your CEO all the way to your external auditors, confidence that your security controls are more than just a nice idea. Because, as any auditor will tell you, if it's not written down, it never happened.
All right, let's move on to Clause 8.2. If 8.1 was about steering the ship, 8.2 is all about keeping a sharp eye on the radar. This is your ISMS's early warning system, constantly scanning the horizon not just for new tech vulnerabilities, but for any change in the business and the threat landscape that could affect your security. It has to be a continuous process.
This little quote highlights the two main triggers for a risk assessment. You've got your regular scheduled checkups, maybe you do them annually, but, and this is key, you also have to be ready to react when things change. And a significant change isn't just a new server. It could be a merger, entering a new market with different privacy laws, or launching a major new product. Any of those should be a huge signal that it's time to take a fresh look at your risks. I love this slide because it shows the beautiful symmetry of the ISMS. Remember those risk criteria you worked so hard to define back in Clause 6? Well, that's the direct input for this process. It's the yardstick you use to measure risk, making sure your assessments are consistent and totally aligned with your strategy. The output, of course, is the documented proof that will guide everything you do next. And there's our golden thread again, tying it all together. A risk assessment is only as valuable as the records you keep. This documentation, your formal risk register, is way more than just a paper trail. It is the solid foundation you're going to build your entire risk treatment plan on. Without it, you're just guessing what to fix first. And now we've reached the grand finale of our operational loop, Clause 8.3. This is where all that planning and assessing finally pays off. It's time to stop analyzing and start acting. It's time to implement the treatments that will actually protect your organization from the risks you've so carefully identified. Well, you really can't get much more direct than that, can you? The message is dead simple. Do the thing you said you were going to do. It's time to roll up your sleeves and actually execute on that risk treatment plan. Whether that means mitigating a risk with a new control, avoiding it by changing a process, transferring it through insurance, or formally accepting it with leadership's blessing. The biggest failure here is a beautiful plan that just sits on a shelf. And for one last time, here's our golden thread. The standard demands that you document the results of your treatment. This is the final piece of the puzzle. It's the proof that you followed through. This could be a project Fluja report for a new security tool, training records for a new process, or the updated risk register showing that a risk level has dropped. It is the ultimate proof of your commitment. So let's bring this all home. Clause 8 isn't just a list of rules to follow. It's a dynamic, cyclical engine. Planning and control give you stability. Risk assessment gives you awareness. And risk treatment gives you the power to act. This engine should be humming along, constantly adapting to new information. And that really brings us to the final, critical question you need to ask. Is your ISMS engine a living, breathing part of how your organization works? Or is it just a box-ticking exercise you dust off once a year for the auditors?